Admiral Isoroku Yamamoto received operational orders during early April 1943, directing him to conduct inspection tour of forward bases in Solomon Islands as part of effort to boost morale among Japanese forces engaged in prolonged defensive battles against advancing American forces. The itinerary prepared by Combined Fleet staff specified visits to airfields at Ballale, Shortland Buin in southern Bougainville, where frontline units were defending against Allied pressure. Yamamoto, as Commander-in-Chief of Combined Fleet, had maintained practice of personally visiting combat zones, demonstrating solidarity with personnel fighting under his command. The planned inspection reflected confidence that Japanese air superiority over northern Solomon Islands ensured safe transit for Admiral's aircraft despite proximity to enemy forces. The intelligence-gathering capabilities that American forces had developed through cryptanalysis of Japanese naval codes enabled Pacific Fleet headquarters to intercept messages detailing Yamamoto's travel schedule, including specific times and routes. Commander Edwin Layton, serving as intelligence officer for Admiral Chester Nimitz, commanding Pacific Fleet, presented decrypted information documenting that Yamamoto would depart Rabaul on April 18th, traveling via 2 medium bombers, escorted by fighter aircraft to inspection sites. The precision of intelligence provided departure time, flight path, and arrival schedule, creating opportunity for ambushing Yamamoto's aircraft during transit. Nimitz recognized that eliminating Combined Fleet commander would deliver psychological blow to Japanese military while demonstrating American ability to reach highest-ranking enemy leaders. The authorization decision required consultation with Washington because targeting specific individual, even enemy military commander, raised questions about whether assassination of uniformed officer constituted legitimate warfare. Secretary of Navy Frank Knox and Admiral Ernest King, Chief of Naval Operations, reviewed proposal concluding that Yamamoto, as military commander directing combat operations, represented legitimate target, whose death would provide strategic advantage justifying mission risks. The approval reflected calculation that eliminating architect of Pearl Harbor attack would satisfy American desire for retribution while removing capable naval strategist whose leadership had been effective during early war period. Major John Mitchell, commanding 339th Fighter Squadron, based at Henderson Field on Guadalcanal, received orders during April 17th to organize long-range intercept mission targeting Yamamoto's flight. The operational challenge was that interception point near Bougainville was at extreme range for P-38 Lightning fighters, requiring precise navigation across 500 kilometers of ocean without landmarks for reference. Mitchell selected 18 P-38s, including pilots with experience in long-range navigation and combat operations. The tactical plan designated 4 aircraft as attack element responsible for engaging bombers carrying Yamamoto, while remaining 14 provided escort protection against Japanese fighter screen. Captain Thomas Lanphier and Lieutenant Rex Barber were assigned to attack element with mission of destroying Yamamoto's bomber. The briefing that Mitchell conducted during evening of April 17th emphasized that mission success required maintaining radio silence during approach, navigating precisely to intercept point, and executing attack quickly before Japanese fighters could respond effectively. The pilots understood that mission represented unique opportunity to target enemy commander whose strategic decisions had shaped Pacific War. The psychological dimension was that attacking Yamamoto represented retribution for Pearl Harbor attack that Yamamoto had planned, creating personal motivation beyond standard combat mission. Yamamoto departed Rabaul during morning of April 18th aboard Mitsubishi G4M bomber, accompanied by 2nd bomber carrying staff officers and escorted by 6 Zero fighters. The flight proceeded according to published schedule, following coastal route toward Bougainville. Yamamoto's reputation for punctuality meant that aircraft arrived at designated locations exactly on schedule, creating predictability that American planning exploited. The confidence that Japanese forces maintained air superiority over region resulted in minimal defensive precautions beyond fighter escort that was standard for senior officer transport. Mitchell's P-38 formation departed Henderson Field at calculated time, enabling arrival at Intercept Point coinciding with Yamamoto's approach. The low-altitude flight across ocean required careful fuel management and precise navigation using compass headings and time calculations without visual references. The formation maintained radio silence, preventing Japanese forces from detecting approach through radio direction finding. The pilots experienced tension during long overwater flight, knowing that navigation errors could result in missing intercept entirely, while fuel consumption limited margin for searching if initial calculation was incorrect. The interception occurred near Bougainville coast, as American fighters climbed from low altitude, approaching Japanese formation. Lanphier and Barber broke away from main formation, accelerating toward bombers, while remaining P-38s engaged Japanese fighter escorts, preventing interference with attack. The visual identification confirmed that lead bomber matched profile of aircraft type used for transporting senior officers. The attack developed rapidly as American fighters closed range despite Japanese escort attempts to intercept. Lanphier's engagement with bomber involved high-speed approach, firing machine guns and cannon at close range, inflicting damage that caused aircraft to trail smoke and descend toward jungle below. The combat occurred at low altitude over dense rainforest, limiting Yamamoto's crew options for emergency response. The bomber crashed into jungle canopy approximately 10 kilometers inland from coast, killing all aboard, including Yamamoto. The second bomber carrying staff officers was also shot down by Barber's attack, resulting in loss of key personnel from Combined Fleet headquarters. The American fighters withdrew from combat area after confirming bomber destructions having accomplished primary mission objective. The return flight to Henderson Field occurred without further combat, though fuel remaining margins were minimal due to extended range and combat maneuvering. Mitchell's debriefing documented successful interception and destruction of both bombers, though confirmation that Yamamoto was aboard required subsequent intelligence assessment. Japanese search parties located crash site during April 19th, recovering bodies including Yamamoto, identified through personal effects and physical features despite crash impact and fire damage. Vice Admiral Matome Ugaki, who had been aboard second bomber, survived crash with injuries, becoming witness to Yamamoto's death. The news reached Tokyo during April 20th, creating shock among Imperial Japanese Navy leadership, recognizing that Combined Fleet had lost commander who had directed naval operations since before Pearl Harbor attack. The Japanese government delayed public announcement of Yamamoto's death until June 5th, while organizing elaborate state funeral intended to commemorate Admiral service and maintain public morale. The period between death and announcement enabled completing succession planning, with Admiral Minachi Koga designated as new Combined Fleet commander. The propaganda messaging emphasized Yamamoto's heroic death while visiting frontline forces, presenting loss as sacrifice, demonstrating dedication rather than as intelligence failure, enabling enemy assassination. Admiral Nimitz's public statement following confirmation of Yamamoto's death characterized mission as legitimate military operation against enemy commander directing combat operations. The American media coverage portrayed successful interception as retribution for Pearl Harbor, emphasizing that architect of surprise attack had been reached by American forces, demonstrating that no Japanese leader was safe from reach of United States military power. The psychological impact on American public provided morale boost during period when Pacific War remained contested, with Japanese forces defending positions across vast ocean areas. The strategic assessment within Japanese Navy examined how Yamamoto's loss affected operational capabilities and command structure. The evaluation was that while Yamamoto had been effective commander, his death didn't fundamentally alter strategic situation, because Japan's defensive position was determined by industrial capacity imbalance and resource limitations rather than by individual leadership. The successor, Koga, continued defensive strategy that circumstances dictated, though personal command style differed from Yamamoto's approach. The institutional resilience meant that combined fleet continued functioning despite losing commander who had led it during critical early war period. The intelligence implications of successful intercept raised questions within Japanese military about communications security. The investigation examined whether specific intelligence leak had compromised Yamamoto's schedule, or whether general communications vulnerability enabled Americans to systematically read Japanese messages. The conclusion was that communications procedures needed enhancement, though full extent of American cryptanalytic success wasn't recognized, enabling continued exploitation of Japanese codes. The failure to identify that naval codes were comprehensively broken meant that intelligence advantage contributing to Yamamoto's death persisted, benefiting American operations throughout remainder of war. Captain Lanphier and Lieutenant Barber both claimed credit for shooting down Yamamoto's bomber, creating controversy about who achieved kill that persisted for decades. The post-mission accounts diverged regarding which pilot fired decisive shots, with evidence supporting both claims, creating ambiguity about individual achievement. The dispute illustrated how combat circumstances at high speed and close range made determining specific pilot contributions difficult when multiple aircraft were engaging same target. The historical assessment concluded that mission success resulted from coordinated effort by entire formation rather than individual achievement, though both pilots received decorations for participation. The tactical precedent that Yamamoto mission established involved using signals intelligence to target specific high-value individuals, demonstrating that cryptanalysis could enable precision operations against enemy leadership. The success encouraged continued intelligence-driven targeting throughout war, though opportunities comparable to Yamamoto intercept were rare because senior commanders typically operated in secure areas rather than transiting near combat zones. The strategic lesson was that operational security, including unpredictable scheduling and communications discipline, was essential for protecting senior leaders from targeted attacks enabled by intelligence collection. When Japanese Admiral Yamamoto faced America's revenge during April 18, 1943, the encounter represented convergence of American signals intelligence, long-range aviation capability, and determination to eliminate commander who had planned Pearl Harbor attack. The successful interception demonstrated that technological advantages, including cryptanalysis and long-range fighters, enabled reaching targets previously considered safe from attack. Yamamoto's death illustrated vulnerability that resulted from predictable scheduling and compromised communications, creating opportunity that American forces exploited through precisely planned mission. The personal dimension of Yamamoto's final hours involved routine flight that he had conducted numerous times during career visiting frontline units. The Admiral's dedication to maintaining morale through personal presence at combat zones reflected leadership philosophy, emphasizing connection between senior command and fighting forces. The decision to maintain published schedule, despite general knowledge that American intelligence capabilities were sophisticated, demonstrated either confidence in Japanese air superiority or underestimation of American reach. The final moments before interception found Yamamoto reviewing papers aboard bomber, unaware that 18 American fighters were approaching intercept point with specific mission to kill him. The immediate aftermath aboard P-38s returning to Henderson Field involved relief at successful mission completion combined with satisfaction at having struck blow against enemy leadership. Mitchell's pilots recognized historical significance of operation while managing fuel consumption during return flight. The landing at Guadalcanal brought celebration among squadron personnel who understood that mission represented retribution for Pearl Harbor, delivered through eliminating Admiral who had conceived attack. The debriefing sessions documented tactical details while beginning process of confirming that Yamamoto had indeed been aboard destroyed bomber. The psychological impact provided American public with sense that Pearl Harbor had been avenged through killing architect of attack, while strategic effect on Japanese naval operations was limited because institutional capabilities, rather than individual leadership, determined outcomes in industrial warfare. The mission established precedent for intelligence-driven targeting that influenced subsequent operations, though circumstances enabling successful attack on Combined Fleet Commander were a unique combination of factors unlikely to recur. The legacy persisted through remainder of war and beyond, as example of how signals intelligence and operational planning could achieve effects disproportionate to resources employed, demonstrating value of cryptanalysis as force multiplier in modern warfare.